It is 6:15, and in order to keep on track tonight, I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. I'm going to call it to order. Appreciate everyone being here. Those who may be viewing things from video and such, we appreciate your attendance as well. At this time, we're going to have the invocation and the pledge, so if you would bow with me, please. Most gracious Father, we thank you today for loving us and caring for us in the good times and the bad. Father, we pray that as this vaccine situation has come about, that those who will take that vaccine, Lord, and in an effort to hopefully get us back to a more normal opportunity here, Lord. But we also pray that you will protect those from COVID and those that are currently fighting that virus, Lord, that you would treat them and bless them and care for them. We pray now, Lord, that every discussion had this evening would be in accordance with your will and in the best interest of our students, staff, and employees of Stanley County Schools. In your name I pray. Amen. If you'll stand with me for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no objections. I'm going to make one change to the agenda this evening. We're going to go ahead and move agenda item number 5 up to where we're at right now before we go into closed session. This is recognition of our Skills USA state champion, and I believe Mr. Sorensen and Dr. Dennis will present that.
Thank you, Chairman Chance. On behalf of the Board of Education, Mr. Sorensen and I would like to recognize, and I believe, Montgomery, you are a two-time state champion, is that correct? Two-time state champion Skills USA, Stanley County Schools. This is a huge accomplishment, a very big accomplishment. We're very proud of you. You were the state gold winner for skills in the action skills in Skills USA, and you know, I know it's a huge achievement, and Mr. Sorensen, would you like to say a few words?
I had the pleasure of going with Montgomery to, he went to Louisville, Kentucky, and it's the year before last, and he did really well up there. Yeah, basically that competition is they make a cut, and he missed the cut by like just a couple points, finishing in the top half. So he's won the state remotely, he's won the state in person. So all that's left for him to do is to win the national, and I think he can do it.
There's no doubt.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir. This time I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for personnel matters under North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6, General Statute 143-318-11A1, and North Carolina General Statute Attorney-Client Matters 143-318-11A3. Do I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Gibson. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Poplin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Okay. Call us back into open session. And Dr. Dennis, would you like to address the School Nurses Day?
Thank you, Chairman Chance, members of the board. I'd like to take this time to recognize some of our unsung heroes, some of the people who've been there on the front ever since this pandemic began and affected our schools. I want to notice or give notice to some people who have worked long, hard hours, who have obviously made sacrifices and have been in front and of everything, these everyday things that we have to do to address COVID in our schools. School Nurses Day was established to foster a better understanding of the role of school nurses in educational setting. This year, building on the increased visibility of nurses' contributions, National Nurses Week has been expanded to National Nurses Month in May. And so I would just like to take this time for all our school nurses who are here, and I thank you guys for coming. And on behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to thank you for all you do and all you have done and all you will do. Thank you very much. And please stand up. Please stand up. If y'all will just line up, I'd like to see a picture of you and the board.
Beverly, can you get up there with it?
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the Arts Council donation. Mr. Plummer?
Thank you, Chairman Chance, members of the board. I come to you tonight on behalf of Stanley County Arts Council. I serve on the Arts Council Board of Directors. I have with me Bradley Udi, who works for URE Bank and is the chair of the Stanley County Arts Council. So this time of year, we always come to you for two different things. Number one, to thank you for your support of the Arts Council and bringing the arts into the schools through our CEP programs. Our students always get to go to the Agri-Civic Center or have programs brought into them. This year, everything's been done virtually, but we have been able to get to all of our students this year with those programs, thanks to you and your support of that. The second thing we always come to you for is to announce our Stanley County Arts Council Arts Educator of the Year. This year, because of circumstances and everything that has gone on with COVID, we have chosen not to name just one Stanley Arts Educator of the Year. Instead, we are going to honor all of our arts educators for what they have done for our students this year. We know things have been different for them, difficult for them, trying for them, but they have done what they have to keep arts alive, not only in the schools, but in our community. So on behalf of the Stanley County Arts Council, we are presenting each of our arts teachers in the district with a $100 classroom grant that they can use towards projects in our schools for our students. So we have that to present tonight. Thank you.
Standing. Thank you, Mr. Plummer, and thank you to the Arts Council as well. Thank you for your
Appreciate it.
recognition. Also, I'd like to make an announcement on behalf of the West Stanley players. Mr. Tucker asked me to announce tonight that the players are having their 50th anniversary production. I believe the name of it is Daddy's Dying, Who's Got the Will, which may be appropriate for today's times. And that board members and the public are obviously very, very much encouraged to attend and are welcome. And tickets can be obtained from him or his wife, April, who can be reached. I believe she is at, gosh knows, I can't remember. Anyway, if you need tickets or interested in tickets, please, Lee's Carpet in Oakboro. Or call the office here and Hope will help get you in touch with them, okay? I understand it's supposed to be a really good show. All right, next item on our agenda is the consent agenda for approval of the minutes on the April 13th regular meeting and the April 20th special called meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they will stand approved as presented. Committee reports, instructional program, Ms. Gibson.
I have no report. However, I just want to thank Dr. Amy Blake Lewis for all that you are doing. I've been so impressed in our last meeting and everything, so thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Facilities, I believe you all met this evening and have a recommendation. So who's going to handle that? Mr. Sorensen, Dr. Leffler, Dr. Dennis?
Definitely the recommendation toward the end when auxiliary services come up.
Okay, do either of you want to speak on the topic of discussion this evening?
Most of what we discussed in the meeting was about any needed repairs, new carpet and such as that in the schools. And they've got bids on most of it, but some of it they have to get bids. But it looks like everything that we reviewed is really needed. And with our buildings kind of failing, we're going to need more and more of it. But it looks like we had it all covered with our budget. And we approved it and are recommending that the board approve it.
Yeah, I believe those were capital projects for the future, correct? Okay, all right. Finance, Mr. Sorensen.
Nothing to report.
Personnel, Ms. Watson.
Yes, sir. We had a meeting on April 28th, and we talked about we're going to hire two new positions: school administrator. Oh, wait a minute, excuse me. Safety officer and a director of community engagement and dropout prevention. And the board has approved that, so that will be posted online. And other things we talked about were personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Policy, Ms. Poplin.
Yes, I have a list of policies that are up for final approval, and then I have a few that are to be rescinded. So I'll just sort of read off my list if that's okay with you.
Please.
Policy 4300, student behavior policies. Policy 4301, authority of school personnel. Policy 4302, school plan for management and student behavior. Policy 4302-R, rules for use of seclusion and restraint in schools. New policy 4303, fair and consistent discipline. New policy 3470/4305, alternative learning programs. Policy 4307, disciplinary action for exceptional children, students with disabilities. Policy 4310, integrity and civility. Policy 3225, 4312, 7320, technology responsible use. Policy 4315, disruptive behavior. Policy 4316, student dress code. Policy 4318, use of wireless communication. Policy 4320, tobacco products. Policy 4325, drugs and alcohol. Policy 3621/4326, student drug testing. New policy 4328, gang-related activity. Policy 4330, theft, trespass, and damage to property. Policy 4333, weapons, bomb threats, terrorist threats, and clear threats to safety. And policy 4335, criminal behavior, are the ones that are up for final approval tonight.
Since this comes from committee, I do not need a second on it. Is there anyone who has any questions or concerns about any of the policies to be voted on this evening? Ms. Watson? Okay, for revision or further discussion or? Okay, all right. If there are no objections, policy will be referred back to committee
Okay, that's fine.
for concern over the current dress code. And Ms. Watson, if you would get up with Ms. Poplin. Thank you.
And then the policies to be rescinded are policy 1070, official board records, policy 4085, equal educational opportunities, policy 4500, service animal policy, policy 5126, public records, retention, release, and disposition.
Those per policy will be laid on the table for 30 days for board review.
No, those are just to be rescinded.
Be rescinded, I'm sorry, I thought
Yes.
you said to be reviewed.
No, rescinded, sorry.
Be rescinded. Okay, replaced by policy we put in place
Yes.
this evening.
Yes.
Or will be putting in place. Okay,
Yes.
very good. All right, any policies to be put on the table this evening?
No, our meeting is later on this week.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, this time then I'll entertain, or first of all, any questions about any of the policies other than Ms. Watson's concern about the dress code? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Legislative resource, Dr. Dennis or Ms. Gibson?
We had no cause to meet.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is curriculum and instruction, the CTE local plan. I believe Dr. Amy Blake Lewis.
Good evening, members of the board. Per federal and state guidelines, we are required to present our career and technical education local plan to the board for formal approval every year, and so it is that time of year. I have asked our CTE director, Ms. Mandy Mills, to join us this evening so that she can walk you through the plan and address any questions that you may have. So I will ask her to come forward, and I will turn it over to her.
Thanks. Good evening. I hope y'all are well. Our CTE plan is actually a 2-year plan, and so you approved it last year, but we did want to come to the board and just give you a few updates, show you some things we've been working on, let you know what our goals are moving forward for next year, and also give you an updated budget for the 21-22 school year. So first we wanted to show you the enrollment. So CTE enrollment pretty much stays steady throughout the years. We did see a little bit of a decrease with COVID just because of the hands-on nature of our classes. So when that second semester when everybody went home, there were just some classes that weren't conducive to being remote. So we did see a slight drop, but not too bad. Graduation rates, this is one of the things that CTE brags on all the time. Students who are involved in CTE, when they're CTE concentrators, meaning they take a sequence of courses within a cluster, they tend to have higher graduation rates, meaning that they stay in school and we kind of keep them going. So you can see here that Stanley County is of course above the state rate, but then our CTE concentrators are even above Stanley County overall. Credentials earned, you can see that we have been rising and rising and rising, and then the 1920 school year we did not do as well in credentials, and again that's because we didn't have students in person to take those assessments. But what the state is allowing us to do that I'm really excited about is, when we get students back in the classrooms, we can go back and we can give them a review and we can let them take those credential exams, and they'll still count for us, and of course they'll still count for the students. So we're hoping that once we get them back in the building, we'll be able to get that number up. So a couple of accomplishments that I want to talk about. First of all, we've built a very strong advisory council. And what our advisory council allows us to do is it lets the teachers get out into the facilities and see what our local employers actually need, see it firsthand and see what skills they're looking for. And then on the other hand, it allows our businesses to come into our classrooms and see, what that looks like, what does the education environment look like, and really look and see how we can work together. The chair of our advisory council is Mr. Chad Whitley, and I've invited him to come talk to you tonight, not really about the advisory council, but another partnership that we've started, which is the automotive apprenticeship. So we had 2 students start in an automotive pre-apprenticeship this year. So they are working and they're rotating through 3 different shops in Stanley County, a parts store. So they're getting all these different experiences, and they're getting paid while they do it, and they're getting high school credit while they do it. So it's just an amazing opportunity. But I wanted Mr. Whitley to come and tell you about this program and how he is trying to expand it. So I told him he had to be brief.
Don't worry. So I'm Chad Whitley, and I own Whitley Automotive in Locust and in Marshville. And I've been lucky enough to be a part of this advisory council and to roll right into the pre-apprentice program and the apprenticeship that's going to follow the pre-apprentices. These young men that are the guinea pigs, so to say, of this program are extraordinary young men. They were handpicked by their instructor to come and rotate through our shops and through the parts store in Locust, and they're super eager to learn and be involved in this. With the apprenticeship program that these boys are going to roll into, they're going to get a free 2-year degree. It costs them nothing. The state of North Carolina takes care of a tuition waiver for them when they go through this program. They're going to get on-the-job training. They're going to get paid while they're training. It is a structured program for them. These kids are going to start out making money right off the bat. When these kids finish this program, they're going to come in probably making more than, they're going to be making more than the median salary in Stanley County anyway. I'll put it that way. So, and that's after 2 years. So these young men that are in this program are moving forward very quickly, and we're super proud of them. The goal is to now expand that program, not just include automotive, but include masonry, include electronics, include cabinet making, include HVAC, include some other programs in this as well. I have some partners in those fields who are willing to come on. We've got to get the instructors involved, get them wanting to do it, and getting them where their heart needs to be, where they're reaching out as well. Any questions?
Any questions? Mr. Whitley? Thank you very much for your effort and putting forward your businesses as a place for our students to learn and gain more knowledge, and certainly come out with a degree and a job. And obviously we appreciate very much your willingness to expand the program also.
Well, these programs need to expand because this is our future. Skilled trades, and that's exactly what it is. This is, automotive is not just about using your hands anymore. It's about your mind, and it's about critical thinking and deductive reasoning and being sure that you're growing and expanding yourself, not just using your back the whole time. And the same goes for an electrician or plumber. You should see the math that these guys use. I mean, this isn't just back-breaking, digging ditches work. This is skilled work, and this is something that we shouldn't, as a society, we have looked down at our noses at people who do this type of work for years and years, and we've promoted 4-year degrees that these kids come out with, and they make $25,000 or $30,000 a year and owe $150,000. That's not this. This, they come out debt-free. This, they come out and in 3 to 5 years, they can be making $75,000, $80,000 and be debt-free. That's good money.
It's outstanding.
This is where we need to be pushing in Stanley County schools. This is what helps 75% of the enrolled students in Stanley County.
Again, thank you very much.
Taking a chance and doing it. Somebody has to stick their head out and do it, and thank you for doing it.
Absolutely.
It's the first one that gets the ball rolling, and it sounds like you're doing a good job.
We just got to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Gibson, I think, has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Whitley. So these 2 automotive students,
Yes.
what school did they come?
They came, Jared Simpson is from West Stanley High School, and Hunter Morgan is from North Stanley, but he's been in the program at West Stanley.
Okay. Because West Stanley's our only school that has the automotive, correct?
The only school.
And now that hopefully this is going to be expanding other high schools, then we're going to be getting students from all of our high schools involved in all these different programs.
That's the goal.
That's what I love
Yes.
about this, is being able to involve all the students, all the schools.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So the founding partners, we call them, of that group, Stanley Trades, Mr. Whitley, Benji Burris from Frog Pond Performance, and Jason Bruton, who owns the 2 Napa stores. Y'all said it. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be able to do this, because it's really hard for insurance reasons and all kinds of reasons you can think of for businesses not to let students in their doors. And these guys were willing to do this, so we're very thankful for them. Another positive thing we wanted to bring to the board is that we received a grant for to increase awareness and exposure to computer science. And so this was an $80,000 grant that we got, and we are using it as a planning grant. So all of this semester, we have purchased resources and training to build the capacity of our teachers within Stanley County Schools to be able to teach coding and computer science. And the premise of the grant is that we will start out with Math 1 and an Intro to Computer Science course, and we will integrate those for the entire year so that students will really be able to see and apply the mathematics that they're learning in their math class. So stay tuned for that. This event out here was one of the things that that we were using to expose kids to computer science and really get them interested in it so that this program will fly. So we're hoping to have 2 sections at each of the traditional high schools who will go through this integrated class next year. Drone technology, this has really taken off. We are offering this at North and South right now. It's a really pretty easy class to put in place because the teachers only have to go through I say it's easy because I didn't have to do it, but it's just one short little training that the teachers have to go to, and then then pass the test, and then they're eligible to teach this class. So it's been really popular this year, and we have registration numbers for next year, and it looks like it's going to be continue to be popular. So students can come out of this class with their an FAA pilot's license, basically, for unmanned vehicles. Also wanted to just let you know that we have used Zello, our tool called Zello this year, which for career development and course planning. So that's gone really well. We start in the 6th grade and have students taking interest inventories and just figuring out what their interests might be based on their answers to the questions. And then this tool also allows us to plan out their entire 4 years. So I just pasted an example here of a student's plan. So this is a current 9th grader. You can see that they are taking, they've signed up for classes next year like digital animation, Adobe Visual, and then you can also see down in the bottom right-hand corner, like their personality style is artistic and social. So you can see that kind of matches up. And then as they plan out their junior and senior year, some of those courses are career and college promise courses, so they're leading directly into programs at Stanley Community College, which they can take tuition free. And I did just want to remind everybody of our hashtag down in the bottom left corner, the hashtag WAPAG. What are your plans after graduation? Because that's where we start. When we start talking to kids, that's the question we start with. Internships. Internships, we are transforming. You'll be happy to know that it used to be internships where, if you already had a job, you just got a credit for it. What we're trying to transform them to is an actual experience where the kids go in and they have a progressive skills that they learn while they're at their internship, and they have a capstone project. And we're really working to build our business partners so that we can get students internships in whatever area they are interested in. Also, we've tried to dip down into our middle school a little more as far as career development. So this was our platform for our digital career fair we did this year. So hopefully we won't have to do that anymore. Hopefully we can bus kids over and have them talk to actual people. But we did get a lot of participation from our local employers. They made videos for us about the careers that they have at their business right here in Stanley County, and then we kind of supplemented if we didn't have enough. So we thought this went really well for the situation we were in. So priorities for next year. We're going to continue to align our programs to industry need. That's why it's so important that we get out and connect with our industries and see and listen to them and find out what skills do you need. We want to align with the community college, and then we also want to align with our students' interests. Career development, next year we're going to try to dip down into elementary. Our funding can actually go to support career development for 5th grade, so we're going to try to push down into 5th grade so that 5 through 12 we have a continuous career development piece. And then credentials, of course, we're going to make sure that we have those aligned to industry demand, because we don't want to give students credentials and pay for credentials if the industry doesn't need them. So we'll be doing that work to make sure we're aligned there, increase the number of credentials, and also improve our work key scores. So that is my presentation. You have copies of the budget. And I did have one error on the last page. I've just noticed recently that my eyes, like I have to hold stuff back like this, and I think I misaligned one thing. The 32,000 that's under 461 should be under 462. So we're just moving it from furniture and equipment to computer equipment, but everything else is correct. So I'm open to questions. Thank you for listening.
Chairman Chance, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I want to thank Ms. Mills for the wonderful job you've done with the program.
Thank you.
If you didn't get an opportunity, I know a lot of us were. We were out here during the demonstrations with the robotics and the drones, and that's just always something that fascinates me, and I was extremely impressed. And I want to thank your staff for doing such a great job.
Thank you.
Very pleased. This was an area of discussion that the board had recently, was to expand and improve our CTE offerings and the program as a whole, and it looks like you were way ahead of us. So we
Awesome.
greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
And you need approval for your budget, correct?
Yes, please.
Chair will entertain a motion for approval of the CTE local plan budget. Motion by Ms. Gibson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. You have your budget.
Thank you.
Okay, Personnel Administration, Student Services, Deputy Superintendent Calvert.
Do you need anything? I'm good, thank you. Chairman Chance and members of the board, before I start, I just want to say we are so fortunate to have Mandy Mills working with us and all the good work she's doing. And she's one of those quiet leaders. She doesn't say, look at me and look what I'm doing. She really gets down there and gets things done. So thank you, Mandy. I'd like to draw your attention to the updated personnel agenda. We had a few updates since you received your packet, so updates are made in red. Section 1 does not require action, but Section 2 does require action.
I have a motion that we accept Section 2 of the personnel agenda. Motion by Mr. Sorensen. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Watson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Sir. I'm sorry, say again, which item? Okay. All right, Mr. Dudney, Auxiliary Services, sir, you are up.
Okay. What we have to present tonight is the Save the Children contract that we'll need action on. This is actually the lease agreement for the period of June 1st of 2021 through May 31st of 2022 for the use of the facility on the Norwood Elementary campus. It shows $800 per month for the Head Start program in the Norwood community.
I think this was in your packets when you received it. Hopefully everyone reviewed that. It is for the Head Start program, and they've been using that facility, I think, for some time. So it's not really anything new. It's just a continuation primarily. So do I have a motion that we approve Save the Children contract? Motion by Mr. Sorensen. I'll take that as a second from Ms. Gibson. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye, and those opposed, no. Thank you, Ms. Dudney. Dr. Dennis, are we dealing with budget request this evening? No? Yes, no? No? Okay. All right. Let me find my paper. Bud, let's see, next on the agenda is public comments. I believe we have 3 people signed up. I can find my deal with the paper. There we go. Our first person to speak is Bryn Cribb, speaking on school procedures.
Hello, my name is Bryn Cribb, and I'm a sophomore at West Stanley High School. I play basketball and track, and I'm active in my youth group, and I would be involved in some other clubs at school, but they're not having any due to COVID right now. I would consider myself a strong academic student, as I have always made straight A's, and I would like to share some of the things that I have dealt with this year due to online school, social distancing, and masks. Not being able to attend regular classes has made school very two-dimensional, literally and figuratively. It doesn't feel as important, and I am less motivated to do schoolwork. I am also isolated from my friends, as we rarely get to see each other because of the different groups. I find myself feeling very down and sad for no reason, which has never happened to me before online school. Not being able to see my friends regularly and have as many social interactions has made me a lot more separated than I used to be. But on the days that I do go to school, I come home with a more lively attitude and I'm in a better mood. This is most likely due to that I get to see other people and have interactions, even if all of my friends aren't there. Statistics show that anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and depression rates have increased in teenagers since the lockdown started. According to a national poll taken at C.S. Mott Children's Hospital, 46% of parents say their teen has shown signs of worsening mental health conditions since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. By sending everyone back to school regularly, teens, including myself, will feel more motivated to do schoolwork, will be more connected with their peers, and less likely to experience depression or suicidal thoughts. On the 2 days that I go to school, some challenges that I face are social distancing and wearing masks. These 2 things combined make it very difficult to actually talk with my peers. If we talk, we have to pretty much yell across the room, and it's hard to have a conversation that way. This causes even more isolation, and I believe that students should not be forced to wear masks, especially because they are the least susceptible to get sick, and if they get sick, they're the least likely to go to the hospital. Kids and teens experience the lowest amount of infection rates, accounting for only 10% of the cases in the United States. A report in the PLOS Computational Biology discovered that people under 20 years of age are much less likely to spread the virus. The removal of masks and social distancing would allow peers to once again reconnect with each other, and this would again help lower anxiety and depression rates in teens. I remember in my 8th grade biology class, we learned a lot about herd immunity. We learned that in order to fully get rid of a disease or sickness, a certain amount of the population has to be immune. We were taught about herd immunity, yet it's not practiced anywhere in today's world when it seems most relevant. I am not saying that people have to needlessly expose themselves. I'm just saying that we are prolonging the effects of the virus because of the mask mandate and social distancing. The quicker we can achieve herd immunity, the quicker the effects of the virus will fade away. There is also no studies on the long-term effects of teens constantly wearing masks. No one knows how it will affect us when we are older. Currently, the bacteria that builds up in masks is more harmful than the risk of getting COVID. We are constantly touching our mask with our hands and breathing on them all day, which only builds up more bacteria. And this can cause acne to be much worse in teens and also lead to other dangers that we're not aware of. And I'm on my last section. One of my best friends, Sophie Waller, she attends North Stanley High School. She told me that remote learning has torn apart her friend group. She is the only one trying to keep it together, and it is weighing very heavily on her. By going back to school regularly, her friends would be able to reconnect, and she wouldn't have the pressure of trying to keep her friend group together always weighing her down. Wearing masks, social distancing, and remote learning have all negatively affected my mental and physical health and that of those around me. I found a quote the other day, that expresses my sentiments on the current situation. It says, "It is not the government's job to protect my health. It's the government's job to protect my constitutional rights. It's my job to protect my health. When you trade liberty for safety, you end up losing both." My request to you, as my school board, is that you consider opening school immediately with no restrictions on social distancing and masks, as I know that you are here to look out for my peers and I, along with the rest of Stanley County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate that very much. Next to speak is Lynn Shimpock. I believe is a school closure. Is that correct? Okay.
Folks, my name is Lynn Shimpock. I am a grandmother of 2 granddaughters that attend the schools here in Stanley County, and I'm a 30-year educator of Stanley County, retired. In March 16th, 2020, we stopped, closed down everything, the schools, everything, to slow the spread for how many days? 15 days. It has now been 414 days. And our students are still not back in school full time. They're still trying to do this remotely, which you all know is not the best way to receive an education. I received this the other day in the mail. We subscribe to the John Locke Society, and I get something called the Carolina Journal. And this shows a child in the middle of that newspaper. And it's underneath it says sacrificed. And underneath that it says closed schools have hurt students academically, mentally, and socially. And there's a 3.5-page spread article in here from people who talk about how this has harmed and hurt their children and what it's done to them. I was also shocked when I turned back to page 10 and found that our governor and legislators decided to give you folks the choice to open our schools back up under Plan A. And I also found out last week that Rowan County, that Cabarrus County, that Union County are allowing their children, their high school and middle school kids, to go to school 4 days a week for in-person learning if they choose to do so. I found it hard to understand why it was your choice as a board to decide that also, and you decided against that. I was told when I came tonight that you wouldn't answer any of my questions, but I'm still posing that, and I still do not understand that. You just heard my granddaughter speak about what it's like for them to not being able to have contact with their peers, to not be able to go to school and have in-person learning. It's hard to understand for me, and I've questioned this for some time. What is it about Friday that we can't have school on Friday? That everything has to be closed down on Friday? That makes no sense. And that we're allowed to open the schools for 2 weeks for testing, but we can't open the schools for in-person learning for our students. That doesn't make any sense at all. We've waited for you to act on behalf of our students in good faith. And it just doesn't appear that that's happened as far as this in-person, person-to-person learning that our children could have received in school since March, when this Bill 220 was passed by the Senate that was talked about in this paper. The lockdowns have glued their children to computers all day long, which is not good for them. The lockdowns have harmed them. It's caused deaths. Everybody likes to quote the CDC, so let me quote what the CDC said. It says that there's reported 24 increase in ages 5 through 11 in emergency room due to mental health issues. They're going to the increase has been 24% since COVID shutdowns have occurred. That in our grades, our students 12 through 17, it's increased to 31%. Last summer, the CDC reported 1 out of 4 young adults said they had contemplated suicide in a previous month. And this paper that I also read from, that was talking about the CDC, that was from the Foundation of Economic Education, also said, specifically named North Carolina is one of those states where this increase has taken place. You know, the past year, there's been a surge in several things. This paper talks about it, and several other articles I've read it has also. It talks about the surge in teen suicide. It talks about the depression among teens. It talks about the increase in drug overdoses among teens and the spiking of gun violence among teens. All that taking place here in North Carolina. The lives of our young people that we have lost due to spare them from COVID, which has very little effect on their age group, just doesn't make any sense. You know, we've heard that cry over and over again, that mantra, well, if we just save one life. Well, the question is, the statement to back that up is, we have failed to acknowledge the lives that have been lost by children who couldn't take this shutdown any longer, didn't feel like they had anybody to turn to. If they were out and about, it was with a mask on, covering up their complete identity, being told don't get near one another, social distance, stay away from one another. I taught school for 30 years, and I want to tell you there's something really important about seeing a child's face. You can tell so much by that. You can tell if they're understanding instruction. You can tell if they're upset. You can tell if abuse might have taken place at home. And by the way, abuse cases have dropped significantly as far as being reported. And I believe that's because the school hasn't been able to do what it needs to do to help protect some of these vulnerable children. I'd like to close with reading a few quotes from a couple people who sent in their quotes from their children who left notes who had committed suicide. The one says this: the note found left by a student said he felt like he had nothing to look forward to, and he took his own life. There was a parent who had a good high school student, good grades, football player, and his father said that he, in his note, said he felt locked in his house. Peer separation and remote learning was too much for him to bear any longer. This is what this father quoted afterwards saying. These kids need their peers now more than ever. And they need face-to-face contact so they can let their emotions out. And this is not happening. It is not taking place. And finally, this quote from a young lady who's 13 years old who's sounding the alarm about what's been happening during the pandemic. She says, we're struggling really bad, explaining that she estimates 90% of her friends have either attempted or have thought about attempting suicide. We're not okay, and we're not going to be okay until we get the social interaction that we need. She reveals at one point that it got so bad that she was searching online for the least painful way to take her own life. And she decided then to turn to her mother, who turned to a suicide hotline, who got her help. But not everybody's doing that. I'll leave you with this comment. President Ronald Reagan made the statement, and that statement was this: freedom's never more than one generation away from becoming extinct. Is our generation moving toward that? Because we sure are taking our freedoms away from our students.
Thank you, Ms. Shantok. And next speaker is Candy Burris, school mask mandate.
Thank you, School Board, for letting me have this opportunity to speak with you about something that's very weighing on me. The Lord's really been dealing with me. I get very emotional, so I apologize. But My name's Candy Burris. I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother. And my step-grandchildren go to Albemarle schools, and then I have my own grandchildren who won't even be going to school because of the things that are going on now with the mask and the social distancing and so forth. So I want to start out by saying that I'm a very spiritual person. The Lord is my protector, and I don't have to wear a mask because He tells me I'm covered by His blood. He is my healer, and that's what I stand on. And I want you to know that in Genesis, it very plainly says, we are created in God's image and in His likeness. Therefore, our identity is in Him. And by placing a covering over our faces, we're hiding the true identity of who we are, and we're instilling a fear in our children and teenagers that is extremely damaging and will be long-term, I do believe. God also said in 2 Corinthians 3:16 through 18, but whenever someone turns to the Lord, that veil is taken away. For the Lord is the Spirit, and wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And I'm telling you, there is no freedom anywhere anymore. And that's what we have with the Lord Jesus Christ. So all of us who have had that veil removed and can see and reflect the glory of the Lord, and the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like Him as we're changed into His glorious image. How can that be seen, that glorious image, when we're covering up our faces as leaders and parents and teachers to our children? And how can we see it from our beautiful children's face when we've got it covered up? I can see nothing but your eyes. I can see no expression. What we've done is criminal to our children, to their health, to their well-being. We're in a war right now, but the war is spiritual. It is between evil versus good, and I choose good. I choose good. I choose my health and children's health and their well-being. This isn't about the health of our children. It's a political agenda, and it has to do with control. I want to read a couple of facts that I found on continual mask wearing, especially regarding children. Recently on a Tucker Carlson show, a doctor from Colorado posted in the Colorado Gazette, the data is overwhelming, and our kids are really suffering from these mask mandates, which, might I add, are mandates, and they're not laws. They're mandates, they're suggestions. Masks can cause low oxygen and high carbon dioxide levels, shortness of breath, toxicity, inflammation, increased stress hormones, and sugar in the body. Well, that's insanity right there. Do we want to do that to our children? Of all people, do we want to ruin our children? In a recent study by OSHA, they were trying to show how oxygen levels dropped in some workers that wore a mask multiple hours a day, and found those wearing masks and exerting themselves, similar to that of a school athlete, to have lowered their percentage of oxygen for inhaling down drastically and causing them to be oxygen deficient. At these lower oxygen levels, there's increased breathing rates, accelerated heartbeat, and impaired thinking or coordination. I think this study definitely shows why a recent Oregon high school student, a high schooler who was running track, at the end of the finish line collapsed. She was wearing a mask. It's insanity. I don't even know how you sit there with a mask on. I can't do it. My body won't allow me to do it. It's not normal. It's not the way God created us. It's insanity that we've had any restrictions on these kids who are in sporting activities, and I understand that you have removed the mask mandate for outside sporting events. But my concern is going back inside. When I pray to God we go back at the first of the next school year, that you remove these mask mandates from the athletes inside. If you have the NBA and college players who don't have to wear a mask on the field or the court, yet we have the very vulnerable, our young children, masked up. So, because if not, they're not compliant. That sounds like we're not concerned with our children's health. Sounds like we're trying to follow a bunch of rules and mandates, and what our focus should be is on the children. And then might I add that a governor cannot make a law. He can issue a mandate and suggestion, and we should all know that. He can't issue laws. We have the right to choose as Americans if we want to follow his suggestions or if we make our own decisions. And I don't have a problem for anyone who wants to wear a mask, but I can't see your smile. I can't see your face. Don't you enjoy seeing a face and a smile and a kind word? Everybody walks around with a mask. All the kids are scared to death. The thing that makes me so, I can hardly stand it, is to see the young masked up. It's a travesty. It's a travesty, and I'm telling you, God doesn't like this. He is upset with how we've handled things. In another article from the Technocracy News that was authored by a high-respected neurosurgeon, Dr. Russell Blaylock, MD, that was titled "Face Masks Pose Serious Risk to the Healthy," he concluded there is insufficient evidence that wearing a mask of any kind can have a significant impact in preventing the spread of this virus. That represents real science. We've not been following science. Also, a Dr. Vernon Coleman, you can look this gentleman up. He has a bachelor's in medicine, a doctorate of science, and he's the Sunday Times best-selling author. And he states, most mask wearers have no idea of the harm they're doing by wearing masks. Indeed, they may seem to understand very little about how to wear one. He quotes, I have on several occasions seen people drop their mask on the pavement, face side down, pick it up, put it back on. Many wear the same mask, which is very dangerous, over and over. They fail to washcloth mask, which accumulates bacteria, fungi, viruses, all of which we're breathing in. They touch their mask while it's in position, which makes the mask even worse than useless. They put their mask into their pockets or their handbags, and then they put them, and they're greasy and they're grubby. A very dangerous thing to do, since the wearer will now be breathing in whatever bugs or whatever he's picked up that have transmitted into the mask. Scarves are often used as face coverings without ever being washed, which is a very effective way to catch throat and lung infections. And another doctor, Dr. Neptuni, said, what does bronchitis, acne, and tooth decay have in common with kids? They've all increased since the mask wearing. That's what we're doing to our children. Nearly everyone constantly fiddles with their mask. They don't even realize they're touching it. It's just something you do. The incidence of throat and chest infections is rocketing. I wonder how many people will be killed by their mask, and I'm still reading from this doctor. We'll never know. When this pandemic, and I put that in quotes, began, authorities around the world announced that mask wearing was pointless, and it was widely agreed by experts that they could probably do more harm than good. Indeed, it was even dismissed as virtue signaling from the great Dr. Fauci, who's supposed to be the COVID-19 expert that every time you turn on the news, he's changed his opinion. The WHO also supported this general view, which was in accordance with the available scientific evidence. Medical advisors all around the world agreed that there was no need to wear a mask, but for some strange reason, and wonder what that is. Later that year, the story changed, even though there didn't seem to be a scientific evidence supporting this dramatic change. In conclusion, I want to share with you, all of you, you can pass it around, you can keep it. I have a picture of how virologists that work in the labs with these viruses have to wear to stay safe, as everyone wants to say. Your mask does not make you stay safe. If you don't have this on, you better have the Lord Jesus Christ covering you with his blood. And that's what our kids need, and that's what's missing from society. And I hope you'll really take into effect what my sister and my stepniece have all said, because this is killing our children, and it's killing you.
Last person signed to speak. Next on the agenda is Superintendent comments. Dr. Dennis.
Make it through to the 7th is Teacher Appreciation Week. We're here to show appreciation to those who have taught us. Everyone has had their favorite teacher and has helped inspire them. And May 4th was the day we recognized May 1st was School Principals Day, which recognizes important principals from elementary to high school and all the work that they do for the betterment of the school. May 7th is School Lunch Hero Day, and that's to celebrate the 8th annual School Lunch Hero Day, a chance to showcase the different school nutrition professionals and make every child who comes through the cafeteria. May 9th is Mother's Day. Please don't forget about Mom. It's a celebration honoring the motherhood family, love motherhood, maternal bond. And we already went over the May 12th was School Nurses Day. Very important day, May 16th also, Armed Forces Day. Special thank you to the people all over the world who come together and thank the men and women of the United States Forces. May 31st, Memorial Day, is a dedicated time to honor those who died while fighting U.S. Armed Forces. And I just got one more comment on what the day. First of all, I appreciate everyone for coming out. I mean, there's no one that understands more how COVID has affected our children's education. You know, right now, we're trying to deal with how we're going to address learning loss. You know, of course, there's summer programs we're putting together, things that we know we're going to have to do that we would not have to do prior to this to address, you know, this impact it's had on kids. It's had a great impact on kids. I will say this from the front, the Board of Education for Stanley County Schools has always sought to open schools as much as possible. There are schools right now that are just opening up and not been open all year. We've had our K-5 kids in school as much as we can all year, and logistically as much as we have in. Anytime something has been relaxed, and the last lady brought it up, you know, as far as the face mask outside, you know, of course, through the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, when this was brought forward, you know, we've always studied these, what's best for kids, and the board's made that decision. I know they can't address that tonight, but when all these other schools were coming opening up, they were calling us and asking, how did you do it? How have you been open this long? How have you addressed my needs? And so I do want to say that, and I've said this before, this is nothing I haven't said in another meeting, thanking the board for, you know, doing what you can. There's a document from the Department of Public Instruction and the Department of Health and Human Services, and I know Ms. Miller has copies of it if you would like it. And those are the protocols that us and all LEA have to follow when it comes to guidelines, face masks, and as such. And the local representatives and legislators are the ones who influence this document. So they're the ones that can make the changes and go forward to that document. And when the changes are made to that document, the board looks at said document for what we can do, and thus far has done, in my opinion, everything they can to loosen restrictions to get kids in school and keep kids in school. So as they develop those guidelines. But that's all I have today. Please do remember Mother's Day, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis. Move on to board member comments. We'll start with Ms. Poplin.
I just want to start with congratulating Montgomery, who was in here earlier, on his 2-time state championship with the Skills USA. That's very impressive. School Nurses Day, I think they might have just squeaked out on us, but we really appreciate them and everything and all the hard work they've done this year, especially with all the COVID challenges they've had and the extra hours that they've had to put in, so we really appreciate them. Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, that's this week, so if you're a parent or live with a teacher, thank your staff person. All those people have worked extra hard. Principals Day, I would like to congratulate our art educators on the $100 that they received tonight from the Arts Council. I would like to congratulate the computer science department for getting the grant for the $80,000. That program out there tonight that they were putting on out here, and I think they had to move from outside into the hallway because of the weather, was super interesting, and the kids were very engaged, and I was highly impressed by that tonight, so I appreciate that. School Lunch Hero Day, a huge thank you to all of our cafeteria staff. This year has been challenging for them, especially in the beginning when they were carting meals on buses and handing out lunches to all of our students who were at home, so we definitely appreciate them. Armed Forces Day and Memorial Day, and then Mother's Day to those that have been a mother or mothers now. Don't forget your mother. You'll be in big trouble if you do. Thank you. That's all I have.
I'd like to say thanks again for everybody in the schools that has done all the work. The teachers, the nurses, the principals, the superintendent, everybody that's done it. We just sit up here. Everybody else does the work, and we appreciate it. And the nurses were actually our health department for our schools. When somebody didn't show up, they would call them, and they would make calls late into the night, finding out what had happened and who was in contact with them and such as that. So they did an excellent job, as did everybody in the school system. And I think, like Dr. Dennis said, we are behind in our education. We have lost a year and a half. And they're making these plans to catch everyone up. But from the elementary schools through the high schools, everybody's behind. So the whole community is going to have to work together. The parents, the grandparents, the friends, everybody needs to read and study this summer, and they need to read 20 minutes a day and do math 20 minutes a day so that we can catch back up. It's going to take years for them to catch back up, but if they don't put the effort at home, they'll never get caught back up. So the schools can only do as much as they can, and the teachers, but our community needs to work with the students this whole summer and from now on in their educational career. Also, I was happy today to see about the career technical education. That's what I have thought is really important in 2021. I must admit, 20 years ago, I thought everybody needed a college degree and they were going to get that degree and they're going to get a job. There's not that many jobs now with as many as there were with college degrees. But like our head of the department said, if you get a certificate, you can get a job once you get through from high school. And if you go on to the community college, you can get a career and you can do really well. So I would just like to commend our career technical education because I think that's going to be a big deal. And then also I'd like to commend Mr. Whitley and his crew that is letting people get involved in a career that they can do the rest of their life. And the whole thing with masks and such as that, I do it because I think it might help somebody out. And the reason the school does it, it's not mandated, but if somebody would not have a mask, somebody would come in, and we've got tons of lawyers in town, and they would come after you. So we have to legally protect the school system and our teachers and the whole system, because otherwise we'd be overwhelmed. But I'd just like to thank Dr. Dennis for letting us to stay open and do as well as we've done. It's been far from ideal, but I think he's done a great job in keeping everybody going.
Ms. Gibson?
Well, I'm going to try not to echo everything that Ms. Poplin and Dr. Leffler have said. Certainly congratulations to those that received honors tonight. Very thankful for our school nurses and all that they do. And I really wanted to point out thank you to Bradley Udi for the Arts Council donation and to our art educators. I think back when I was in school, I also think back to when I was teaching. And we didn't really have art educators that came along kind of later. But, you know, I remember when I was in school, your art was, here's your crayon and here's your piece of paper, now draw a little winter picture or something with a snowman. I'm amazed at our art educators, and I'm amazed at what they've been able to do remotely with our students. So a big shout out to them. Again, thank you, Mandy Mills, for all that she's doing. To our teachers and our principals, thank you so much for all that you do every day for our students. And I just want to say also a special thank you to our parents and our students, because I know that The EOGs are coming up. I've spoken to a couple parents who tell me that, of course, their children are getting a little stressed. And, you know, the only thing that I can say, it's been a very unusual year, a time with COVID. And, you know, we just ask those children to do the very best that they can, and that's all we can ask of them. And I just don't want to see anyone becoming stressed out over that. Thank you to those that spoke tonight. I appreciate hearing you. And then Dr. Dennis and our county, our staff here, I appreciate your leadership. And I know that all of you work so hard, and we don't thank you enough. But I'm proud of Stanley County Schools and very proud of your leadership, Dr. Dennis. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Sorensen?
I'll start my comments off by saying I do want to say thank you to the three ladies that spoke tonight. I appreciate your comments, but more so I appreciate your passion. You will never hear me dismiss or blow off someone that cares about our kids that much. And my comments are about victories. We've had some victories here in Stanley County Schools, and I think that first speaker was a victory. That young lady came up and presented herself professionally and eloquently. Like I said, Dr. Dennis answered the comments the best that we can as a board, but I do appreciate y'all. I just want you to know that. And I also want to celebrate one of my former students is repeated as a CTE state champion. That means a state of 10,600,000 this kid gets to represent us in a national competition, and this is his second time doing it. And I can't say I'm responsible. I retired last year, but I can tell you that makes me so proud. School nurses, I could not possibly fathom doing the job they do. There's some things I can't even, you know, I don't have the capacity to understand. But no, they are struggling. On a normal year, they work so hard for our kids in our schools. So they're not enough words that we can say for them. So I'm gonna celebrate them. If y'all got a chance to see the displays out in the hallway earlier, man, that was some cool stuff. The drones, the robots, the dual track robots. Got some spending plans now after seeing some of that stuff for my grandkids, but that is some really cool stuff. I know that STEM is the future. Okay, for a lot of our kids, STEM is the future, and to see those young people out there and so excited, if we ain't celebrating that, we should be. Want to recommend, or not recommend, but commend South Stanley and West Stanley softball teams, both making it to the second round in a convincing manner so far. I believe South's the #1 seed, and West they're just tearing it up too. And finally, Oakboro STEM School of Distinction, which has already been mentioned, it hit the paper. I'm personally proud of that accomplishment, having worked with Ms. Dombrowski and some of those others. And we went out there when I was still teaching and did a PD grant robotics demonstration. It was just the energy there was amazing. We did the same presentation at several other schools, but at a K-8 school, we got more technical questions. So I think that they're on the right track at Oakboro STEM. So that's all I have. And I do want to say thank you for y'all that have the passion for your kids. I totally get it.
Thank you, Ms. Sorensen. Ms. Watson?
Well, I won't go over all the things that they've said, but I want to say thank you for all that they have said. And thank you all for coming. I do admire that the young lady that came up, she was telling that from her heart, and I do believe that. Teacher appreciation, I just want to know, everybody should appreciate your teacher. I don't care what age you are, where you are, or whatever, you should appreciate your teacher. And I do appreciate all they do, and also our principals, our art council, all that. And we're going to get there. We're going to get there next year. Thank you.
Dr. Dennis?
Excuse me, I just want to bring up one thing. The middle school testing, we had spoken about at the last meeting. We were approved to go to A for middle school testing for the last 2 weeks of the year. We will be putting out more information on that And I do have a recommendation that we go back into closed session to address the client attorney matters according to North Carolina General Statute.
Okay. This time then, the board chair will entertain a motion to return to closed session for attorney-client matters under North Carolina General Statute, what is it again? 143-318-11A3. Motion by Ms. Gibson. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Watson. All those in favor say aye.